the average person that's out there that's weightlifting or doing whatever they're doing to stay physically fit or not age or whatever they're doing, they look at something like amino acids and they go, oh, well, they all must be the same. It's amino acids and I'm just buying amino acids. And they don't realize that there's the research behind them and there's the patents behind them. And that's what I found very intriguing about your product was that you guys, the amount of clinical evidence and the amount of studies that had been done. And I kind of do that with everything I do. Usually I try to be pretty natural and use as little supplementation as possible. So, when I use protein powder, I'm like, well, I don't want all these, massive flavorings in it and coloring and this and that and whatever it is. I just want pure whey. And where am I getting this whey? Is it grass-fed beef? Is it from or grass-fed cows, or where is it coming from? So I try to make it as natural as possible. And seeing all the work you've done is very impressive with the Amino Co. So, but I would have thought before talking to Freddie, before talking to you, I would have thought they were all just the same. I would have thought it's like, hey, you buy peanut butter, there's peanut butter, some taste a little different, a little bit, but it's peanut butter, like, I would have thought amino acids were all the same.
Yeah. Well, that's our challenge to help everybody understand why they're actually not all the same and that some are much more effective in particular circumstances than others.
There's a big push in the endurance community for BCAAs, and people want to take branch chain amino acids while they're in the midst of a competition because they usually last over an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, or 4 hours, however long they're out there, and they're depleting so much of their electrolytes, their carbohydrates, and for some reason they're all supplementing BCAAs, and I've heard some bad things about that. Is there, could you explain that to me? Why you wouldn't want to take BCAAs?
The idea behind taking BCAAs during endurance exercise is that we have two fundamental neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, and they're opposing in their action on alertness and focus and perception of fatigue. And the idea is that the more dopamine you have relative to the serotonin, the more focus you'll maintain. And that's really the goal of the BCAAs, that the BCAAs are blocking the uptake of the amino acid tryptophan into the brain, which is the precursor, the molecule from which the serotonin is produced. So the idea with the BCAAs is that you're going to make a more favorable ratio of this dopamine, as the excitatory neurotransmitter, relative to serotonin. And the serotonin, I think probably everyone is familiar with the notion that if you on Thanksgiving eat a big pile of turkey, that you're going to get sleepy because turkey is a rich source of tryptophan. Mm-hmm. And so what the BCAAs are trying to do is trying to block that production of serotonin from tryptophan. And in fact, they're an important part of our product called Perform. They constitute about 60%. However, the problem with the BCAAs alone is that they also block the uptake of the precursors for dopamine. And so in our product, we also include the phenylalanine, which leads to the production of more dopamine, so that it has a greater effect on the ratio of the dopamine to serotonin, and a greater, more prolonged effect on maintaining mental focus. The other aspect of our formulation is that we maintain a muscle protein turnover, meaning that the rate at which new muscle fibers are produced to replace the ones that are being broken down as you do the exercise is maintained by the overall balance of essential amino acids. So that I think that the BCAAs serve a purpose, and they're in our product as well, but they have limitations, both in terms of support of the muscle function as well as actually maintaining a real state of alertness and lack of a sense of fatigue. So So that I would look at our product, or in the sense of endurance exercise, as something that is capitalizing on the same general idea of the BCAAs, but actually uh, providing a more directed focus, and that they're superior to the BCAA alone.
Yeah, because I always wondered that. I was curious to why endurance athletes were using BCAAs in their products, and I thought, why not use them all? I
Yeah,
or not all, but like why not use essential amino acid? How's that going to restrict you?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a pretty good question. I mean, the thing is that I can't. I've been puzzled by the popularity of BCAAs. Because they're only addressing part of the reason that you take protein or amino acids, and uh, it's like once water sort of runs downhill, once some people start doing it, and there is some benefit. As I said, we have a abundant amount of BCAAs in our products, but that's not the whole story of what the benefit you can derive from amino acids. So that'd be a real interesting question. Why people do take the BCAAs alone? Because I published an article a couple of years ago on the BCAA's effect on muscle, myth or reality, and the conclusion being that really it's the effect on muscle is a myth. That there's no evidence that the BCAAs alone really support muscle function or strength at all.